Hello and welcome, as today's date is the completion of the 16th day of December, as we now enter the 17th day and a couple weeks to go until the end of the year and the decade. Okay, all bets, trades of the like within each's own risk and their own reward. And within BTC US dollar, we had a period from around December the 10th-ish or so, and just until now, hanging in there within this 18 average and showing weakness amongst it. And in today's session, down 3.33%, as it has now come back down to this little area in here, falling from the 18 like we see it here. Was a little above this Fibonacci point. Failed breakdown, resulting in a very fast breakout. Failed one, of course. And now looking, as I've been stating for a while, to most likely continue on further down and pierce below the 63.42 level. So there's really not much more else to say about Bitcoin against the dollar. That's where we're standing. I wouldn't be surprised if this happens in today's session, that being Tuesday, or concisely. That's why it's tough. But maybe concise is a better word, because fast would be today, Tuesday into Wednesday. Concise would be most likely throughout this week. It could go into next week, and so on and so forth. Shortening out the time frame, we can see that this little area in here was correcting from the 15th, or at least the start of the 15th, completion of its day, into today, just going sideways, really resisting this area of previous support that it had from the morning of December 10th, and then a little bit of a failed move, showing some strength amongst the 18 average of highs in here. Unable to really have any clear break, only microscopically getting above this level of resistance here in the December 13th timestamp. And of course, this hour here, which is the 1300 mark, majorly, concisely breaking down below this level of support. We've done nothing ever since, just hang in there and go sideways. I've talked about that before. Don't be surprised when moves like this happens. Let's think things like that go down. So via, whether it be through price or time, well, price, I'd be looking at where it came from in here. Time, of course, well, it's only been that of 3 periods. We take a look at this on a single hour. We can see more of this sideways correction, and there's the 1300 hour timestamp. 15-minute, well, we can see that it started after 1 p.m. The bulk of it happened after on the 30-hour timestamp. So that was been 13:15 rather. So it didn't start until 1:15 rather, and the bulk of it happened after 1:30. And let's just take a look at this on the 1 minute time frame, and that's just commonalities. Some sort of large selling came into place, as we can, starting at about 13:28, intensifying on the 13:30 timestamp. Like, this is one where you want to know more about that minute. I'd like to see the 1 second time frame for this kind of action in here within that high volume move. Comes down again, and then just concludes at this level. Not quite down to that 63 level, 68. Of course, that's just back to where that area before where it came from, and just more and more of this sideways range, majorly establishing, of course, short-term resistance at 69.10. Finishing it with a long-term analysis, weekly chart. We have, of course, this huge run up to the mid part of the year. There's the June 24th high, and has had this one resistance test at the 18 average of highs. Now we're seeing it resist mainly through time from this down move in November in here. Come up close to the lows in here, but it does look as if it's going to go down again a little bit further to that level. Whether this would be a key area for a bottom, well, time to me is the only way I'm going to find out, because I don't care what genius or whatever comes and says what. I know when it comes down to it, it either will or it will not, and there's no way you can convince me otherwise. It's 100% for sure going to either be or not be that of key support. But it does almost seem as if it's close to that percentage that it will at least come down and test it. It's pretty sick to say that, but the probability odds are still pretty high that it happens. On the monthly chart, we are still in this correctionary test within this 18. We're still really in this correctionary move from not only this down move, but this high move, meaning we had this low, we come up to this, and we're just correcting. Okay. Also from this high, we're correcting in here as well. But from this level in here, This is just one long correction in itself that we're enduring. And it's been a long sideways correction. It's now been a 2-year period, 24 months from this high. And sideways action went a little bit below last year, at the end of last year, start of this year, went a little bit above, and for the remainder of this year, it's been going sideways. Well, it's in the band. So then here we are. This is this 6181 area, a little pierce below. We can see this little area pointing here. We'll see if this does hold. 18 is pretty much as flat as can be. So many neutral signals. Long-term aspect. It's going to be tough to convince me otherwise via charts itself that until if it's in this range, then the I don't know's got to remain. And in that, if we break below this, even though we can still find key high-low support at an area of previous resistance, thus come back to where we come from, and that's not a surprise bullishly. The concern, of course, for cryptos not succeeding will come into play. On the breakout above, the concern is that a failed breakout. I think that would be less of a concern than, of course, on the other end, but the optimism and the opportunities for large plays and big breaks of resistance, as was the case when it broke by this one here for a concise key breakout, would not be that of a surprise. Meanwhile, with all this going on right here, we got Bitcoin dominance. It's just overall, not too much. But as far as over the last several days, we had this low rallying up to this resistance point. We can see it's looking like a successful correctionary phase given the action in today's session, as it did all those days in there, getting it above this. And this is a case of Bitcoin's losses being not as large as the altcoins as a whole, as they lost more percentage-wise on their market cap than, of course, Bitcoin, given this fact. And overall, I mean, the fact that it's just doing this low volatile move, it's like, okay, whatever. I mean, whether it comes up here, it's all yada yada. Although this would be your next layer. If it gets above there, we can start to talk about the range of previous high. Now let's cross over to not as large of an altcoin, but obviously one of my favorites, in that of Theta, which has been having a continuous run ever since attempting to break out on December the 8th. So it's been 8 days. And still continuing to chug its way along. It's up at this upper area of resistance. Came up a little over 14, as I was mentioning. Now, if it's get above there, I've talked about these levels before, but it's like 1800 next. Finding and holding this area here is a big thing, because if it does come down, and you'd expect first, okay, you expect to hold in this area. If it starts to rally higher and then it doesn't make a lower high, but you see it makes continuation moves, then that, whether it's a self-fulfilling prophecy or not, it just happens that the likelihood breaking the resistance after that, like, oh wow, big moves coming after that, yeah, not a surprise amongst those situations. On the short-term time frame today, well, we can see now it's recovering, but earlier today, 1300 hours, this thing had that move lower. And on the 1 minute term, we can see, just like everything else at that time frame, this is 1330, just decent size selling on the Theta, and a lot of altcoins, of course, experiencing its share of decent volatility. But even just now on the 1 minute term here, this is looking to me as if this thing might be ready to get going. We'll wait and see. Also, I've been talking about Tezos lately, also now becoming one of my favorites as well, as I've been adding into that recently, and has been doing very well now from this low at near under 1,000, only 500 Satoshi away from 3,000. And what I like about this is over the last few days, from the high, we had not quite to the 18, but still noticeable few days of correction. We see it starting to go higher. Okay, what does the short term state? Well, let's take a look. On the next hour before this, the 8 hour, we've had a lot of nice little moves. And how well is this 18 worked out as far as correcting? Well, from this high, it held and stayed within this. There's holding and staying, even though it went below. Okay, that's fine, just whatever. And then it attempted to break above the highs, failed. but it successfully corrected. And then in here, we can see that it did succeed within this attempt, made the ascending triangle, succeeding on the 18 average of lows or highs rather, as it did. Makes this leg. Nice little consolidation in here, but 18 lows had a continuation correction here. This was a successful attempt to break out because it established resistance very short in time, just 3 or 4 periods in correctionary mode. And then, as I've been stating, you have this correctionary play. You start to see this. And then you have this move. No surprise, you have a leg higher. Now we've had this correctionary mode, and what does it look like it's doing now? Well, I know what it's doing. It's attempting to make this thing ride, continue on further, break above this level of resistance here, and then, of course, make a new leg. So just, you have a leg higher, this, and then you'd be looking at least somewhere around maybe 28 or something as a next move higher. Or next move up. Don't like saying the same words over and over, but that's the past. On the 3-hour term, we can see, and of course that's the past is in like minutes ago, seconds ago. But anyway, so we've had a resistance hit here at this timestamp, well, whatever that is, but a few periods later hits it again, all of these periods within it. And we can see even just this period here, it was showing the 16 stamp one. That's a bullish pattern in the fact that from this move, and when you even look at this closely, look at a candle by candle analysis. Well, at least for a few of them in here, you did all of this, and then you have this one, which managed to try to attempt to get above it, came back to where we came from, we can see, because this is the 4 periods of resistance we obviously supported, retested the high, came back again deep within this area here, but obviously held, and then we've seen a full period where holding stays like that. That's why you can't be too surprised by the 2 periods after that is doing exactly what it is. So now you come up to this level. Key point. And to me, it's almost like 50-50, flipping a coin, black or red on a roulette wheel. Do we either A, have a next move that comes back to here, or B, do we maybe come up and have a noticeable move up to like maybe around 26.50 or go up about 4 or 5% more? It's 50-50 at this stage. But and if it does come up here, I mean, this could be pretty serious. What even does even there after that, because that would be a situation of a break of this key level. On the single hour term, there we can see even more of this little point in here. It comes back and just more of where you want to hold around the 2400 number. And on the 1 minute term, what did it do at 1300 hours today? Well, it did not much. You can tell Bitcoin was doing all that type of stuff. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.